Hi, hello everyone. Ethan here, and welcome back to a new Beats Hovel video. Yeah, it's been a little bit. It's been like, well, I don't even know how long it's been, but just don't think about it. I want you to excuse me for sounding a little bit nasally. I just had COVID. I just recovered from COVID. I was actually on my deathbed, and I was fighting for my life. And what really brought me through was the thought that if I died, I would no longer be able to make the videos. So I found my will to live, and I'm here making another video for you. Um, so that's how that went. No, actually, I was fine. It was just like a head cold, really. But yeah, today we're here talking about the Jungian groupings, which, disclaimer, they are not actually Jung's groupings. I'm just saying that because he originally came up with these four categories, which were feeling, which we've substituted for ethics, thinking, which we've substituted for logic, intuition, and sensation. So I call them the Jungian groupings because it's like a cool tagline to get you to remember these categories because they're very important. But I just want to put a disclaimer out there that they're not actually that related to Jung in any meaningful way. We've moved on from Jung's original categories, but it's a nice callback. So yeah, this is a direct follow-up to the last video about the information dichotomies. If you'll remember, we learned rational, irrational, internal and external, and abstract, involved, which are depicted by these sort of crosshatch thing. You can skip this part of the video if you want, if you just want to get to the categories themselves, but I think it's instructive to know that the dichotomies that we learned from last time actually construct these categories. So if you look at the little chart here, you can see I have plotted rational, irrational, and internal, external. And all of the groupings have their own category assignments. So rational and internal information is ethics. Rational and external information is logic. Irrational and internal information is intuition, and irrational and external information is sensation. You could plot any two of the three dichotomies that we learned on here, and the little middle section is the third dichotomy. That's a little unique mathematical property of the groupings that I just wanted to show you really quick. So yeah, that's mostly why I went over the information dichotomies, was just to show you this. I will go over each individual one as I discuss the different Jungian groupings, but I thought it would be instructive to know that as well as many other things in this model, you can actually construct the groupings using the more basic dichotomies. So here it is. Here's the grouping. And moving on from this, we will discuss the first Jungian grouping, the first information category, sensation. Okay, I am back with two categories actually, sensation and intuition. And I neglected to mention something earlier, but I'm deciding not to redo that take because I liked the take. I should point out really quick that these are information groupings. You remember how I said in the Intro to Information Elements video that we're learning about the information elements in parts and pieces, and that they're modalities of the mind, that they're particular modes that have motivations attached to them. Yeah, so these groupings are the actual information groupings that the elements attach themselves to. So we're learning about these now and using the information dichotomies to construct them. And then in the next few videos, we're going to learn about the agendas, so the motivations that are applied onto particular types of information to produce the elements. So yeah, just thought I'd get that out of the way, that these are sections. These are the sections of our conscious experience, the four sections. So yeah, let's start with sensation. Sensation is irrational, which means it's a perception, it's unfiltered information. It's external, which means it can be pointed to, it's demonstrable, and it's involved, meaning it's a portion of our local direct experience. So with all those things in mind, all those three properties, all those three dichotomies attached to sensation, what is it? Well, it's perceptions of the body, things that you can feel, things that you can sense internally, also specific details that you notice with your senses, experiences like an actual like full sensory experience together, everything, which can include things like, for example, more long-term sensory stimulation, like being in a room. You could be in a really dirty room, and your sensory elements will tell you that it's not a really nice room to be in. So what do? You construct the room according to your liking and optimize sort of the living space, to make it more pleasurable for you, to improve your experience of the situation. That more general awareness of the sensory environment is something that I feel like a lot of people miss with their understanding of sensation. So I want to stress the experiences portion. Also, just the here and the now, being aware of what's happening around you, being aware of what's ahead of you and what's behind you, and just your general sensory environment. You can tell when somebody's not really in the here and the now. I mean, I'm not a lot of the time. So yeah, that's another component of sensation, and that's what sensation is. Meanwhile, we have intuition, which is sort of the same but different. It's irrational, meaning that it's just raw, unfiltered information, but both of the other dichotomies are completely different. It's internal, meaning it happens inside of you, it's subjective. It can't be pointed to, you can only sort of communicate it vaguely. And it's abstract, meaning it's global, it's not happening here and now, it's happening somewhere else. So with those properties in mind, what is intuition? Well, intuition is, unlike sensation, concepts and conceptual associations. Things that we can imagine with the mind and that we can see happening and that we can picture, we can speculate on, we can hypothesize, but are not actually part of our grounded experience of the here and the now. They're things that we have to strain to communicate to others, but are often central to our experience and perception of the world, which is why they're irrational. Also, they're vague in general. They're things that you can't really make out. You have to kind of sift out, read between the lines, so things like that can include possibilities, reflections, insights, again, speculation. So all of those things are intuitive, in pieces of intuitive information. And this is probably the only time I will quote Jung, but there is a quote from Jung describing his original categories that I feel makes complete sense here, which is, quote, "Sensation establishes what is actually present. Intuition points to possibilities as to whence it came and whither it is going in a given situation, or where it is going in a given situation." That's another key detail, I guess, that Jung points out here, is that intuition is abstracted off of our sensory experiences. That intuition that our sensation is often a building block for our intuition, and vice versa. Intuition can actually cause us or motivate us to engage in particular sensory experiences. So there's an interplay there, for sure. So yeah, that's two of them. That's two of the information groupings, and now we will move on to logic and ethics. All right, I'm back with the last two Jungian groupings, or categories of information. The last two are logic and ethics. So starting with logic. Logic is rational, meaning it's evaluated and interpreted information. External, it can be shown or pointed to directly. And abstract, it's global, it's not occurring in the here and the now. So logic is factual information. It's information about facts, about properties, about categories, anything you can think of in that realm. And it is concerned with the accuracy, truth, and falsity of that factual information. Because it's a rational grouping, it's a rational type of information, it has to be concerned with an evaluation. So it is the evaluation of factual information, again, according to whether or not it fits something, whether or not it fits some standard, whether or not it fits what we see empirically. It has to be evaluated in some way. And it's also concerned with the organization and application of factual information. How should we use factual information? Should we gain more of it? Should we parse the information that we already know? Should we make dividing lines on factual information? Should we use factual information in the application of problem solving? All of those things are dealt with using logic and in the domain of logical information. So that is logic. And the last Jungian grouping is ethics. Ethics is rational, so it is again evaluated and interpreted, but the other two dichotomies are different. So it is internal, it is actually happening inside of us. Well, I don't know. That's not, no. What I mean by that is in a way that can't be pointed to directly, in a way that's vague and general, and that has to be sort of, read between the lines. And it's involved, so it is happening here and now. So ethics is generally, what they say is it's generally information about people. So sentiments, attachments, emotions, expressions, all those other things. But all of those things can also be projected onto the world of things that are not people. So if you think about your favorite teddy bear that you had when you were a kid and the attachment that you had to that teddy bear as if it were a person, and you might begin to think of it as like an imaginary friend, or imaginary friends in general concern ethical information because it's an attachment that you form about an abstracted personage. So that's ethics. Again, emotions, attitudes, and sentiments that you can apply to people and things, and it is, again, how we navigate the social world. Our social cues inform us about ethics, and it is how people should feel. So whether or not people should open up, whether they should remain closed, whether or not they should release everything on their minds, or whether they should restrict that to a more context-dependent situation, is all ethical information, and it does concern the evaluation of information about people. So yeah, that's ethics. We'll go over these all in much more detail in the coming videos on the information elements. First we have to do the agendas, but we'll cover this all in much more detail. If there's something that you didn't understand about it, as always, you can ask questions in the comments. I will answer those. But yeah, those are the groupings. And there are sort of two things that I want to say to close out the video here, is that if you'll notice, for example, between logic and ethics, they both share the rational dichotomy, but they're different on the other two dichotomies. And it's actually the same with all the other elements compared, or not all the other groupings compared to all the other groupings. So think about logic. Logic shares the rational dichotomy with ethics. It shares only the external dichotomy with sensation, and it shares only the abstract dichotomy with intuition. So if you want to go back in the video, look at the dichotomies, look at how they compare, you can sort of think about how they're related and how they only share one dichotomy with each other. That's just an interesting little tidbit that will apply later, but I may not get into all that detail in the lectures themselves. Maybe I'll write an article about it, but it is something interesting to think about. And the second thing that I wanted to bring up is your homework assignment for this lecture. No, you don't actually have homework. I'm not actually going to do that to you. I'm not going to print out like assignments. This is not school, okay? This is just casual, nice learning, hopefully that you find casual. But your quote-unquote homework is just like the information dichotomies, to see where these categories come into play in your life. How do you use logic? Where is logic in your life? Where is ethics in your life? Can you apply the different events and circumstances in your life to these groupings of information? And I think that's an instructive exercise, as well as doing that with the information dichotomies, that will help prepare you for your understanding of the information elements that are coming soon. So if you want to do that, totally up to you. I think it's pretty easy personally to just take a little moment to think about those things, but as always, it's up to you. Next time we will be looking at the agenda dichotomies, so hopefully you join me for that lecture as well. And I will see you in the next video.